Hello everyone, welcome to Growth Channel. Today we're actually with a very special guest, Marco Trujillo. He's actually a friend of mine. Welcome.
Thank you.
Can you please tell us a little bit more about yourself? Who are you?
Yeah, so my name is Marco Trujillo, and I think I would consider myself a normal human being, but at the same time, I'm a father. I'm a Christian. I believe in my Lord and Savior Jesus Christ, and I think that in business, I would consider myself a leader, and that's like the basics of it.
Perfect. Now, Marco, what did you do before the insurance industry? What's your background?
So I used to work as a card. I got into the insurance business at 19, which was real, like pretty young age, and so I didn't have a ton of life experience prior. So my only job working like an actual real job, growing up, I worked in like the cold storages around here. There's a lot of agriculture, right? So you got the fields and cold storages. I did that growing up, but when I turned 18, I got an actual like a real job, I guess you could say at at a car dealership washing cars. So I was a detail guy and I was going to university, full-time student, and that was right before I got into the insurance business.
What was your major, if you don't mind me asking?
Uh, I think it's the major that everybody who doesn't know what they want to do, it was business administration. So
Gotcha.
that's what I was doing. But I think that's kind of like when you really don't know what you want to do, but it sounds cool. Like oh, I'm
Right,
gonna go to
right.
school for business. That's kind of what I did too.
That makes sense. I went to school for pretty much the same theme. I
Right.
was double majoring agricultural business and psychology. Now,
Nice.
what made you get into the insurance industry? How did you fall into insurance?
Well, it was kind of like I don't want to say luck, but it wasn't something where I seen the insurance business, the insurance industry, and said I need to get into that business. I need to get into that industry. It was more of like a situation and like almost like perfect timing the way things worked out because I was working at the car dealership like I told you, but I was just washing them cars. I wasn't in sales.
Got it.
And I seen the sales guys selling the cars, making commission. And I remember this guy, he sold, like, he broke the record at the car dealership for how much cars were sold. And he ended up making like $16,000, which to me at that time, I was minimum wage working, not even full time. So
It seemed like a lot.
16,000 for me was like, dude, it's almost like you could have said that it felt like $1 million at the time, you
Right,
know?
right.
And so I said, man, well, if I can figure out, and I worked with the guy, so I'm like, he's not any smarter than me. He's not any more hardworking than me. Like everything that he's doing, I can do it as well, and in time I can get there. So I seen an opportunity for me to be able to save some money because what I wanted to do was save some money, open up a business. At the time, I was really like gym was my life at the time, so I really wanted to open up a gym, open up like a little restaurant, and a couple other little businesses like in a little business plaza. And I figured I would need like at least 100 grand to do it.
Gotcha.
So I was like, well, how do I save this 100 grand? And I seen sales as a way to do it. So I interviewed for the position in sales, and I got rejected. They said that that I was too young. So at the time I was still 18, and but they said I was too young, and that if a position would open up, they would let me know. And then they ended up hiring a salesman that was even younger than me. So I felt a little bit betrayed by the dealership. Like,
Right.
why do you guys tell me I'm too young, but then hire someone that's even younger than me? You know? So that was my situation with car sales. The next thing is like, well, what's the sexiest sales that exist? It's probably real estate. I'm sure you would probably agree with that, right?
Right.
So I looked at real estate and I'm like, man, I want to do that. There was a show called $1 Million Listing New York. I would watch it, and these guys would go around New York selling properties, like high-end properties, making commissions, and they would show the commissions. And I was like, damn, these guys make a lot of money. I was like, well, if I can get into that, I'll be able to make some sales, help someone get into some properties, and then I'm gonna take that cash that I make and I'm gonna be able to use it to start my own businesses. That was always the plan, right?
Right.
So I reached out to this person that I knew who was a real estate broker, very successful person, and like we know them, like family knows them and everything like that. And one day they end up pretty much saying like, hey, you know what, real estate, it's a very hard business, it's a very hard career. In the beginning, you're gonna be broke, you're not gonna have a lot of money, you're probably going to want to quit. You're probably going to give up, to be honest. So maybe you should just stay in school and get a regular job. That was what they told me.
So at that time you got discouraged.
Well, I mean, I didn't get discouraged necessarily. I was always like, when someone tells me that I can't do something or that,
You want to
like,
go and prove them wrong.
exactly. So it just adds fuel to the
Right.
fire. So I work better like that, to be honest, than from encouragement. I work better off of someone talking down on me than necessarily than encouragement. So that was the thing that for me was a big motivator to actually like, oh, okay, I'm gonna find another way.
Right.
And so then I was still going to university, and one day I'm in school and I get a phone call and they tell me to show up to a business meeting, and I show up, and sure enough it was in insurance, and I got exposed to the industry.
Did you know what you were getting yourself into at the time?
No idea. I had no idea. I remember the guy said he was a broker and he has an office to show up. I showed up. He was wearing this ring that if you made 100 grand in a year at that company, they would give you this ring.
Right.
And so
Or a little blue ring. Huh?
yeah, the blue ring. And so I seen it and I was like, what is that? And I told him, did you play football or something? And he said, no, when you make 100 grand in a year, they give you one of these rings. And so I was like, so I can make 100 grand working here? And then he was like, yeah. And so that was everything enough for me to say, okay, I'm going to give this a shot. Because if these people are making money here, then, well, I could do it too,
You could do
know?
it as well. Right.
And so that's how I got started in the insurance business. I dropped out of school. I kept my job for a little bit, but I completely dropped out of school. I had no interest in being in school. I was just doing it just because that's like the thing to
Traditional?
do. Yeah,
Like
it's
a traditional
traditional,
thing?
and I didn't want to. I felt like if I didn't do that, I'd kind of be a little disappointment to my family. I don't know why. They never told me that.
I
but
feel like a lot of people they felt that. So
I
understand
felt that. I felt that. I felt like there was a pressure from society to do that. So
Right.
that's why I was doing it.
Now,
Not
Marco-
because I wanted to.
Now, Marco, you still young, right? You still a pretty young now. Now, they rejected you to do sales at the dealership. Now, you have a big agency now doing life insurance. Now, do you have life insurance yourself?
Of course. Yes, I do.
Perfect. Now, can you tell us more about how life insurance works?
Well, I think life insurance is very important, and it's a little unfortunate that there's not a lot of education overall as a country, as a society. They don't really tell us and educate us on the importance of having it, and you see the downside of that when people pass away. They have to do funeral. They have to raise money for the funerals, right?
Right.
They start asking people for money. They start
GoFundMes.
GoFundMe accounts. When you go into certain little small grocery stores, neighborhood grocery stores, you'll see cans and buckets with people's faces on it, and they're asking for donations because they don't have the money for it. I mean,
Right.
especially today, right? In our country that we're living in today, most people do not have enough money for a random expense like a funeral.
Right.
So imagine going through the emotional loss. That's always devastating, right? You can't bring the person back. You're going through like a heartbreak and just a process of just trying to make yourself feel better, right? And on top of that, imagine just adding a $10,000 or $20,000 bill on top of feeling like that, having to figure out how to go come up with the money fast. So
It makes it easier for the loved ones that stay behind.
exactly. When you have a life insurance, like imagine if I asked you this, if let's say you have a minute to live, right? You're gonna pass away in 1 minute, and I ask you, hey, this is the last minute of your life, right? How much would you want to leave your family right now?
Personally, brother, you know, that's a very, very interesting question. I got over $2 million of insurance, so I have nothing to worry about, right?
Right.
Because now I'm educated on the insurance side.
Yeah.
But if I didn't have insurance, I would be a little bit worried.
Right. Now think about this. If I asked you, how much would you want to leave your family in these last moments, in these last final moments of your life? I could write a check right now. How much do you want me to give your family to make sure that they don't have to worry about anything? They don't got to worry about the mortgage payment. They don't got to worry about having enough income to sustain their life for the next couple of years at least. Your kids don't have to worry about moving to a different neighborhood because, you know, the remaining spouse couldn't afford it. And if you want to leave some money behind for their future as well, you can do that. If I could write a check for you so you can be able to guaranteed to do that, right? There was a guarantee for you to do that. Do you think it would be worth that? Do you think those people, if you asked them that at the end of their life, they would say, yeah, I want you to write it, but it's going to cost you $150 a month, or it's
Of
going
course
to,
they would.
whatever the price is a month, right?
Whoever's smart enough to see the opportunity, they'll take it, because unfortunately, sometimes, us as agents, as brokers, you go out, you go and you sit down with these clients, right? But then they have, like, for example, right? There's people who they just had someone pass away and they still don't take the advantage. But I think that the people who are responsible enough and they do care for their families and they take action, they do love their family.
Of course, absolutely. And I think one reason, Jose, why a lot of people, because it really comes down to the lack of education. Because
Right.
if everybody knew the benefits of having life insurance, what it does for the people that stay behind when you pass away, and if you really knew how stable these insurance companies truly are, how much they're actually worth financially, a lot of people think that because you go to the bank to get money, that somehow banks have more money than the insurance companies. But if you look at their assets and you look at how much they're actually worth, these insurance
Insurance actually
companies
have
are
more,
way
way
bigger.
more, right,
In
right.
2008, bunch of banks went down and crashed and completely shut doors. They completely closed down, right?
Right?
In
People could do
2008,
the research and yeah, that's true.
Exactly. And in 2008, you know how many insurance companies closed down? None.
None.
Why? Because they have so much more assets than the average bank, and they're required to. They're required to have that. So, yeah, life insurance is super important.
Right. Now, question, Marco, is there any advice do you have for those people who don't have life insurance, including agents? Because, there's people in the industry who also don't have life insurance. What's your advice to them, to those people who don't have it?
Well, if you don't have life insurance, it's simple to get. It's number one, it doesn't hurt for you to actually just take a look at seeing what could look like for you. A big misconception is people think it's very expensive. Now, you can have a big policy that costs you a big premium, but that's only if you want to. And number two, if you even qualify for something like that.
Right.
Number two is all our plans, all life insurance plans out there, especially with a non-captive independent broker, they're customizable. You can adjust it directly for your needs, for your budget, and get you qualified for something that's good for you. So I would say reach out, get with an insurance broker that you trust, like yourself, and just see what it may look like for you. The worst mistake you can make is not doing anything and letting time go by. Because if you let time go by and then you no longer can qualify for insurance, then you want to have insurance, but the insurance companies won't even take you anymore.
Right.
At that point, it's too late. So before it's too late for people, I would say get it, because it's better to have it and not need it than to need it and not have it. So.
Right, and Marco, that's one of the things that as an agent, when I'm in the field, right, and when I go to the field, because sometimes I still do, right. Now, it's frustrating and I'm sure I'm not the only person, because you've been in the field as well, so you could probably vouch for that as well. It's very frustrating when there's so much value to give this family and they need it and they could afford it, but they choose to make something else their priority, like their TV bill, or they'll pay for something else that they really don't need,
Yeah.
I feel like a lot of it goes back to, choosing priorities as well.
Yeah, 100%. And again, I think it all comes back down to, Jose, is they just don't really understand it. And let's say they really understand the importance of it. They understand how it works and how affordable it is for them and for their family, what it would do for them if they were to actually pass away. If you still prioritize another bill, for example, over it, I always ask the clients this question, and this is usually the question that really just seals the deal for them is, okay, so you're spending this much money on unnecessary bills that you don't need to have, but you want them. And there's nothing wrong with wanting them, but we got to make sure that our priorities are straight. our family is straight, what needs to be taken care of is taken care of, right? And I always tell them this: all right, you have these bills here. These are not necessities. This is something that you want and you like having, correct? Yes. Okay. Well, which one of these bills is going to give your family $100,000, $200,000, $500,000, whatever it is, right? Which one of these bills is going to give your family a $500,000 check when you pass away? None, right? You know what these bills are going to do? When you pass away and you no longer have that income from your job and your wife is still stuck with these bills, the only reason they're going to call you is to collect money.
Right.
This bill is going to call you, well, not you because you're gone, right? But this bill is going to call your family,
Whoever they leave the money
to, and they're going to tell them, hey, so and so thought about you, they cared about you enough that they have a policy. They had a policy where you're going to be receiving a whatever the amount is, 500,000, 100,000. Which one of those things should we prioritize?
Right.
And then once they see it like that,
they'll be like, okay, life.
Yeah, and if you don't care about your family enough to take care of them, well, then that's a personal. That's a personal choice, and I mean, at least I know I don't gotta live with that.
Right.
If
at
they
least,
choose to live with that, that's
as
on them.
brokers, agents, we do our best to provide that information to the client.
Yeah.
Well, Marco, is there anything else you would like to add?
If I would just say, if you don't have life insurance, at least look into it because it's super important. And if you've been declined in the past for life insurance, look into it because there's always new products and there's always new companies, or not necessarily new companies, sometimes there is, but there's a lot of new products and new different qualifications that in the past could have declined you. Now you can get approved. If you have any condition, we have products that can help you get your life insurance. And if you're looking for work, this is a very stable, very, very, very stable industry to be a part of, whether full-time or part-time. If you want to help people and on their worst days, you're the hero for their family, that's what you can do in the insurance business. So that's pretty much it.
Got it. Well, Marco, thank you for your time,
Yeah,
brother. I appreciate you.
Absolutely.
Appreciate you guys watching. God bless you guys and take care.